Hi, it's Lady Horror here, and today's story, I want to know if there was a werewolf that terrorized France in the 1700s. That's right, a werewolf. You know, that brooding, handsome man who grows fangs and fur every time there's a full moon? So I have a great story that's going to make you want to reconsider ever camping in the wilds again. In fact, you may want to reconsider going to France as far as that's concerned. But please, if you enjoy my stories of the dark, scary, and dreadful, hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to sign up for notifications. And now, let's get on to that werewolf. This true story takes place in the 1700s in Gevaudan. Gevaudan is a historical region in France that's located in the rugged highlands of Massif Central. It's a gorgeous, dramatic, and foreboding land that is just filled with these jutting, rugged mountains, these deep, dark, dense forests, and rain-drenched plateaus. Although this region once was very prosperous, the wars in the 16th century completely devastated the local economy. Most of the locals ended up very extremely poor, and they had to take to shepherding livestock in order to survive. So they were shepherds who actually lived out on the open land with their animals. In January of 1764, a 14-year-old girl, a young shepherd named Jean Bollet, was busy tending to all of her animals on the side of a wooded valley when she disappeared. Her family and other shepherds, they immediately launched this very frantic search for Jean. They were extremely concerned. She was a small girl, 14 years old, and she has gone missing. But as the hours went by and night starts to fall and eventually it's completely dark, Jean's family just, they grew very distraught over this. And, unfortunately in their guts, they had just the sense of knowing that something terrible had happened to their daughter and their sister. Sadly, Jean's torn and traumatized body was eventually found. She had been dragged off, she'd been killed and dragged off into the woods and partially eaten. Because of the horrific damage to her body, there was really absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that Jean had been the victim of a vicious wolf attack. Sadly, back in time and in this part of the world, women and small children were often shepherds, and they would often take care of cattle and sheep and animals out in the wilds all by themselves. Also, wolf attacks were considered just one of the common risks that you had living this rural lifestyle. It was more common than you would like to think. But quickly, more deaths that were similar to or worse than Jean Bollet's body was found in started to appear. The victims were always found severely injured. They had their necks and their stomachs ripped open. They had body pieces dismembered and scattered around the land next to them. In fact, some of them were even completely decapitated. Fear quickly spread like wildfire. It was becoming so obvious to everyone that whatever was killing the people that they knew and some livestock, but more people than livestock, this was not your regular wolf. This was more ferocious and more calculating than a wolf. The locals soon began referring to this dangerous creature as la bête. La bête means wolf, but for these people, it meant werewolf. Very frightened, shepherds and their families began to band together, gather up all of their animals, and just kind of stay in one large group. But la bête was not afraid of this. The attacks and the deaths continued to happen. It is said that the beast killed 100 people. But truthfully, when you go back through the records and you talk to enough people, it was estimated as high as 300 people died at the hands of La Bête. And unfortunately, most of them were women and children. In a panic to find and rid the region of this monstrous wolf, they hunted down and killed over 100 wolves. The locals would skin the wolves and hang their pelts and their heads on top of posts, stakes, hang them from the trees. They were doing all of this hopefully to send a warning and scare off any other predators in case there were others out there, such as La Bête. They just wanted to make it clear that they were, not going to let it happen anymore. The thing is that deep inside, though, they all knew that none of these wolves were responsible for what had been happening. When you looked at the size of them, it just physically, it wasn't possible for them to cause the horrendous injuries that they were finding on people. For the next 3 years, La Bête terrorized Gevaudan. Word of this monstrous beast spread quickly throughout the lands in France, and actually the story became a national obsession. Ongoing reports of attacks flowed across the country, and it quickly became, a fascination, an obsession. It created just this sense of dread among all of the population, whether they were out in the wildlands or not. People were just scared to death of La Bête. It was said that the beast had an astonishing swiftness, the evil gaze of a devil, and this is my favorite part, the intelligence of a wily, robust gladiator. Yes, those are the exact words that they had used to describe this creature. There were also several accounts of people who supposedly survived attacks from the beast. In January of 1765, a group of young boys, they were all under the age of 13, supposedly came face to face with La Bête. Also, they supposedly were able to turn him away from them by poking him with sharp sticks, screaming and yelling, and pelting this beast with rocks. And eventually he turned and fled. Personally, I'm a little bit skeptical. I mean, I don't know that I believe you could actually fight off a werewolf with sticks and stones, but, hey, then again, I've never had to. A couple of months later, in March, a woman fought La Bête off in a vicious battle to protect her 3 children. Unfortunately, one of the smaller ones, who was 6 years old, died of his horrific injuries that he suffered during this battle. Then there was the famous Marie-Jeanne Vallée, who was known as the Maiden of Gevaudan. She was attacked by the beast, and she fought for her life, ferociously fought for her life, when she was able to actually wound the beast by taking a bayonet and stabbing it in the chest, thus being able to run away. Let's see. Lady Horror, Maiden of the Dark. Thanks God I've got a bayonet for all this werewolf fighting I'm going to do. Got to keep that in mind. Anyway, desperate to find and kill the beast, a local military captain, Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, I know I have a problem with these French names, recruited thousands of locals to help him track down the beast, find it, kill it, and present it to the public. Duhamel did not believe that the beast was a wolf. He actually told people he was sure it was not wolf, it was cat. He believed that the father to the animal was most likely a lion. However, he couldn't come up with any theory on what could have possibly been the mother. Duhamel and the locals, they traveled far. They searched for this animal. They traveled the wildlands, the woods. They went everywhere they could, but they didn't even see it, much less capture it. By early 1765, all this drama surrounding La Bête, the beast, finally caught the attention of King Louis XIV. He actually invited the young boys who had fought the beast off with their sticks and stones to come to his castle and tell him the story, where he promptly gave them a really nice reward. But then he turned around and he ordered his soldiers to go out on their own and find Lebet and kill it and bring it back to him. Leading this group of wascally hunters was a renowned Normandy wolf hunter whose name is really way too long and way too complicated for me to even try to pronounce. They went out, but unfortunately their mission was a complete and total failure as well. Really, really frustrated by now, King Louis decides, well, I'm going to send my own personal bodyguard, Francois Antoine, out. He's going to be able to find the beast. He will kill it. He will bring it back to me. I will be a national hero. And on September 21st, 1765, Antoine's men did successfully kill a very large wolf. Everyone believed that this was the beast, and France celebrated. Everybody, including King Louis, was so happy and thrilled to be done with this terrible matter in their country. King Louis heavily rewarded Francois Antoine and his men for what they had done, but then guess what? 2 months later, the attacks resumed. Between December 1765 and June 1767, 30 more fatalities occurred. The locals of Gevaudan were absolutely horrified to realize that the beast was still stalking them. But by now, King Louis had lost interest. He kind of lost face and he didn't want anything more to do with it. And frankly, the reporters in the country lost interest as well. They just kind of moved on. Once again, the locals of Gevaudan realized they were on their own to deal with this. But on June 19, 1767, a local hunter, Jean Castel, killed this large animal. Now make note, I didn't say wolf. For lack of words to describe it, the locals called it a wolf, but that's not really what they meant. This thing wasn't exactly a wolf. They called it a strange wolf. It had, according to their descriptions, it had this monstrously large, deformed head. And it also had, these red, gray, and white stripes of fur running from head to tail. Hunters have said that they've never seen a wolf that has this kind of coloring in its fur. They weren't 100% sure it was a wolf, but this thing that Castel had killed was an animal. The closest they could describe it to was a wolf, therefore it was a wolf. Incredibly though, after this animal, this wolf, was killed, the attacks stopped. I mean, they totally stopped. In the centuries following these attacks and killings, a lot of theories have been put out there about what it was that was killing the locals. One of the most popular is that this creature was supernatural, that it was a werewolf. Of course, science tells us that this is not possible, but the rumors still abound out there about the werewolf. In fact, it is said that Castel, when he shot the animal, he actually shot and killed it with a silver bullet. More recently, though, theorists say that this was probably the work of a serial killer who was using some kind of an animal to stalk and then kill its victims. But actually, there's many special experts out there, specialists out there, who say that that theory is really a little too far-fetched for them. I mean, more far-fetched than the theory that there's a werewolf out there killing people. Probably the most likely explanation comes from the animal world. There's a lot of people that think that some animal that's not native to France found its way to France and has been killing these people, and their most likely target was probably a hyena of some sort. Okay, that's really plausible. but it's most recently been thrown out there that the beast was most likely a very young juvenile male lion whose mane had not fully matured. So his appearance was very scruffy and unkempt and just kind of maybe ill looking. They don't know, but it would have been something that the people of France, the locals in Gevaudan, probably had never seen. I don't even know if they may have seen a mountain lion of some sort, but it would have been a totally foreign creature. Why was this animal never found? Well, that makes a lot of sense. They were putting out poisoned bait traps to try and catch it. So if we are on the right track of it being an animal, it is likely that this creature ate one of the poisoned traps, got very ill, and then went into the deep dark forest to die. But the far less exotic theory, and probably the most accurate, is that all of these killings were probably the work of several large wolves who learned to work together to hunt and to kill. They worked as a very well-managed unit, and people just assumed it was one really large animal, one large wolf. I don't know about you, but the thought of it being a werewolf is a lot more exciting to me. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to go with the theory it's a werewolf. The true identity of La Bête Gevaudan has never really been solved to anyone's satisfaction, and there remains this big air of mystery surrounding the wild regions of Massif Central. So what's your take on werewolves? Do you believe they exist? Could this be possible? Well, I really wish you'd let me know what you think. Meanwhile, take care and beware the moon.